and I would probably knit it again, honestly. These steeking stitches were an act of self-care and self-preservation. I know it's gonna be so oversized and I'm really excited about it. I have no fear. Gotta love the aesthetic. Fits me perfectly. I knit the majority of this sweater in like 4 days. So fuzzy, so cozy. It's the perfect beginner colorwork project. Our clothes are meant to fit our body, not our body, our clothes. Hi cozy friends, and welcome back to Morgan Unraveled. If you are new here, I like to unravel my anxious mind with my cozy hobbies, mostly reading and knitting. If you are not new here, you are used to seeing my monthly Cozy Diaries episodes where I chat about what I've been knitting and reading. And I decided I'm going to be changing the name of my knitting podcast to the Unraveled Podcast. So I want to thank you so much for being here and unraveling with me. Let me know down in the comments what's been helping you unravel lately. What are you working on or reading that's been bringing you a lot of comfort? In between these podcast episodes, I also often post knitting vlogs, which I have started calling my knitting diaries. I will be following the traditional knitting podcast format, talking about my finished objects first, followed by all of my works in progress. And I have a secret whip that I have not yet shared on here, on Instagram, or anything. It has been my own little side quest project, and I'm very, very excited to finally be sharing it. So make sure you stick around to the end to hear about my secret little whip. I will have timestamps so that you can jump around if you're here to just hear about one project or another. But I hope you will get cozy and unravel with me as I talk about all the things I've made in August and am currently working on. So grab a project, grab a cup of something cozy, and let's unravel. Seeing as we are going to be talking about everything I made in August, I thought there was nothing more fitting to wear than my August sweater. This design is by Joanna Gersh, and I knit it in Maker's Cozy Wool in the color Brown Marl. And it is starting to warm up here, so I probably won't get much more wear out of it. I did not finish this in August though. I finished it just before August arrived, so I did get to wear it throughout August. It has such a beautiful cable raglan detail, and I highly, highly recommend this pattern. Just be patient with the back yoke instructions because that is the hardest part of the pattern and it's the very beginning of it, so it can be quite discouraging. But let's dive into the things I made in August. I talked about this one as a finished object in last month's knitting podcast because I finished it in August. I knit the Book Club Cardigan for the Book Club Cardigan Knit Along, which ran from June 1st to August 10th, and I think I finished this on August 5th. I would have finished a lot sooner if I didn't have to wait for a second international delivery of yarn for this cardigan. The Book Club Cardigan is a design by Sari Nordlund. I think the pattern was very clear and concise. This was an all-over cable work sweater, and it worked up very quickly for me, and I was quite obsessed with it. I really couldn't put it down. The only thing that made me put it down was running out of yarn, but I am very happy with it. I am absolutely obsessed with the design, and I really love my yarn. I think it has a lovely drape. My only complaint is there is already so much pilling on this cardigan, and it is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I knit this in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the color Mink Heather, and it's a really nice yarn. It has positive reviews, and as I said, I really love the feel of it. I enjoyed working with it. I did just buy a lint shaver, but I haven't used it on my knits yet because I want to practice it on an item of clothing that isn't my handmade knitwear. I will definitely report how that goes once I have done it. This was my first time knitting pockets, and I think I talked about this on the last podcast, but I did the pockets completely differently. The way she designed them, there's 3 layers of pocket, which is really ridiculous and a waste of yarn when everyone's playing yarn chicken because the yardage requirements completely underestimate how much yarn you need. I ended up needing 100 grams more than the pattern called for, and I had to buy 2 extra balls. But when I picked up for the pockets, I immediately did an Italian bind off on the front part of the pocket, and then I just knit a flat panel for the back. I did the first 4 rows in the cable repeat so that you wouldn't be able to see, and then I've completed the pocket in garter stitch. It's holding up quite nice. It is not visible, but it is quite a small pocket, so I can't imagine I'll be using it very much. It's more for aesthetics. This was my first time knitting a double knit button band, and I'm very, very proud of myself for accomplishing that, and also the buttonholes. I really do love learning new techniques with my knitting, and this is one of those that I feel like I will apply to so many patterns now that I know how to do it. Whether it calls for a double knit button band or not, like I'm obsessed with it. The pattern calls for a 16 stitch button band, and I only did 11 stitches, so it is significantly narrower than the pattern calls for. However, this button band literally used 50 grams, 110 yards of my yarn, and that's still less yarn than it would have used if I knit it to pattern. I can't believe how much this pattern eats yarn. I will put on the screen the numbers because I'm forgetting right now, but this is how much yarn this pattern was supposed to use for my size, and this is how much yarn it did use for my size. And for my book club cardigan, I knit the size 3. So if you decide to knit the book club cardigan, which I do highly, highly recommend, it's such a fun pattern, and I would probably knit it again, honestly. If you do, just make sure you buy an extra ball of yarn at the least, because it seems like everyone was running out in the knit along chat. My next finished object for August is the Storm Sweater Junior by petiteknit. I knit this in Annette Erickson's Scanty Wool in the color Eucalyptus. I really enjoyed working with this yarn, which is a very positive thing because you will see later I have another whip in this yarn. This pattern was honestly so much fun to work up because you're just getting little sections of the charted knitting and then you are right on to the next one. As you can see, there is a lot of pilling on this one as well. But to be fair, my son has already worn this so much. He actually asks to wear this every single day when he wakes up. He wants to put it over his pajamas and be super cozy in the mornings, and we wear it to the park and he gets mulch all over it. Honestly, there's probably mulch on it now. I think there's actually crumbs on it, and I totally showed a close-up of it. He's always wearing it, he loves it, and that brings me so much joy. Like, that's honestly the entire goal. I don't care if he wears it till the threads start to fall apart. I will mend it, and I am so proud to not only have made something for him to wear, but that he loves it. I did very lightly modify this pattern because I repeated this section down here again at the bottom, where this section was supposed to be this ribbing repeat, but I didn't want to do ribbing and then immediately go into the ribbing of the hem. So I decided to repeat the diamond section instead, and I'm really happy with that. And I think I also did the same thing on the sleeves, which have even more pilling, as you can see. If anyone knows how to prevent pilling in your knitting, please let me know, other than just shaving it off when it happens. I think it's just going to happen with wear, and that is what it is, but I'm very, very proud of this, and I literally worked this up in basically a week. I had to pause because I ran out of yarn. I am always losing yarn chicken. I never buy enough, and most of the time it's because I change my mind about what pattern I'm going to be following from the time I buy the yarn to the time I actually start the project. I think I was planning to knit just a stockinette sweater for him, but I decided I wanted to do a fun textured knit, so I think I ended up not having enough because of that. Another thing I just absolutely love about hand knits is my son is a really big boy, but he's only 2. So I'm able to make the body super wide for him, but I can shorten the sleeves because with everything he wears, the sleeves are falling off his arms and are usually too long for him. So it's amazing that I'm able to make things customized to the size of his body because our clothes are meant to fit our body, not our body, our clothes. And it's very special to get to do that for my family. I think I knit the majority of this sweater in like 4 days, but then I had to wait on more yarn to come in because it wasn't at my local store anymore. It had sold out in this color. But funnily enough, when my order came in of more yarn, it actually was the same lot number, which I was not holding my breath on. If it was a different lot number, I was just hoping that the texture allowed that to blend together the way it did on my book club cardigan. You can't tell that there's different dye lots, even though there's 3 different dye lots in my book club cardigan. With all the texture, it just really all blends together and it's not very visible. But I just got really, really lucky with this one. And for the Storm Sweater Junior, I knit the size 5 to 6, but like I said, I think I shortened both the body and the sleeves just a little bit. I don't know if this next knit should fall into finished object or whip, but I have completed one sock of the Colorwork Cuff Club by Summerlee Knits. This is her August design, and I'm so proud of myself because, as you've seen, if you've been watching my vlogs, I'm pretty new to sock knitting and I'm very new to color work. This was my first color work sock and it turned out pretty well. This sock fits me perfectly. I do have to squeeze the cuff over my heel because of the color work, but I have never gotten a sock to fit like a glove the way I did this one. So my perfect sock cast on is about 64 stitches, but that was altered a little bit for the color work charts. For this sock, I cast on 64 stitches, and then during this stockinette portion, I increased to 66 for the chart. And then after doing my slip stitch, heel, and gusset, I actually decreased until I was at, I think I decreased to 60 stitches. So the foot is a lot more narrow and it just fits my foot. It just fits my foot perfectly. And I made it a lot longer than I've made socks in the past as well. And it feels like I really tailored it to my foot rather than just following the pattern. So I'm really, really proud of that. And I feel like I'm really discovering my perfect sock recipe. I did cast on the second sock, but I obviously lost some steam on this one once I cast on the next whip I'm going to be talking about. But I am really happy with it, and I look forward to getting to the stockinette portion because I'm kind of done with the color work on the socks. Honestly, doing color work in fingering weight yarn is not it. I'm just not very comfortable tensioning my fingering weight yarns. Maybe it's something I just need to work at more and get more practice with. I'm just way more comfortable working with worsted weight and DK weight yarns because I can tension them a lot more naturally without feeling like I have to actually tense up my body. So I think I get a lot more sore when I've been working on socks or fingering weight yarn projects. I am knitting these socks in a black wattle yarn sock set. They are a local yarn hand dyer here in Canberra, Australia. I think they actually are based in New South Wales, but I think they're only an hour away from here, and they were at the Canberra Wool Expo when I went. Their yarns are just so beautiful that my Aussie knitting friends and I are hoping to make a trip up to their alpaca farm very soon so that we can shop more of their yarns, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, we're in Whipland now, and you all know what I'm about to pull out. I am working on the Salty Days knit along. If you saw my last couple videos, you know I am hosting my very first knit along for the Salty Days sweater by Kutova Kika, and it's a breeze. It is so beautiful. It's so much fun to work on. It is an all over lacework, cable work, and ribbing design, so lots of beautiful textures. It is a drop shoulder, oversized, and I'm so excited with how quickly it's working up. It has been so much fun, not only to work on it, but also to share this process and this journey with all of the other knitters that are joining this knit along. When I was posting the knit along announcement, I genuinely thought we would have like 30 people maybe join this knit along. I had no idea how much it would grow. Editing Morgan here to say, Kika shared our knit along announcement this morning and followed me, and I've actually been in shock since. I literally don't know what to do with myself. Kika is who got me into knitting. I found her from her wedding dress knitting vlog. I was so inspired by her and her knitting designs that I couldn't help but want to knit myself and want to learn to knit. She had so many helpful tutorials that got me to where I am today. And to know that she not only saw my post, but followed me and shared our knit along and led so many other knitters to joining our knit along now as well, actually is just mind-blowing. And I'm just so thankful for the knitting community and to be and to be making these videos and getting to share my knitting journey with you guys. And we did our first knitting party Zoom call or Google call the other day, and it was such a joy. But oh my gosh, so many people showed up, and my social anxiety was going crazy, but I also had so much fun. Everyone is so nice, everyone is having a great time knitting, and we also can offer each other so much support and be like, hey, I struggled at that part too, here's what I did to fix it. And it's been such a joy. I'm having so much fun, and I wake up every morning and I check the hashtag because I want to see everyone's progress. I have just finished working the lace design on the body, and I'm going to be doing the this eyelet section again next. And then I will be doing the ribbing again, and then I'll be on the bottom hem, which is so crazy. I haven't put this project on a stitch marker and like fully tried it on yet, but I know it's gonna be so oversized and I'm really excited about it. I've seen so many people struggle with their projects being too small, so I did size up a needle and I am knitting the size medium to give me about 20 centimeters of positive ease. And I really do think it's going to be the oversized fit that I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to put the collar on my Salty Days very soon. I think that will help it all come together, and I will definitely be trying it on once I've done that. As I shared in the vlog, I did swatch twice for this project. One of them was on the suggested US 8 or 5mm needle. And after swatching this, I did think I was on gauge, but that's because I was like kind of stretching it just a little bit to measure, and I was like, yeah, that's meeting gauge. But then I watched someone's knitting podcast, the knitting podcast Good Knits, and she shared that she had stretched her swatch when she measured it, and so her project ended up too small. And I wanted to learn from her mistake, so I did swatch a second time on 5.5mm needles, and the gauge is perfect. So that's what I ended up knitting with. And like I said, I'm a lot more confident in the fit of it. I'm happy it's going to be quite oversized. And I'm just so thankful for the knitting community that we can always share our learned experiences in our projects so that others can have a better time with their knits. And I hope that you get a lot of insight and inspiration from my channel the way I do, all the channels I watch. It's actually insane to me that this community that I have consumed for so long that I am now an active participant in, it's bringing me so much joy. Next whip we're going to be talking about is the Cumulus Blouse by petiteknit. I am knitting this in Dolce by Sewick in the color 337. If that's wrong, I'll put it on the screen and correct myself. It is a beautiful dusty rose color. This yarn is so delightfully soft, so fuzzy, so cozy. I'm so happy with it. I am doing the Cumulus Blouse as a buddy knit with my friend Mickey from Mickey's Cozy Corner and Haley from Haley's Space. Mickey is hoping to start a YouTube channel soon, and when she does, I will definitely have her linked in the description. Then you can definitely go watch Haley's channel. She makes cozy knitting vlogs and a knitting podcast, and she is such a sunshine of a person. But we actually had a little girlies knit night. When they came over, we made cute little coastal stitch markers, and I also gifted them cords to be able to put their works in progress on when they needed to try them on or when they're putting their stitches on hold for the sleeves. And honestly, these have been such a game changer for my knitting. It is so easy to transfer them off, and now I can have so many whips because I'm not tied to how many cables I have. And that cording came in a big roll like this, so it came with so much that if I hadn't shared it, I would have just been using this for eternity. I will put the links on the screen that I used for the sleeves and for the body, and if you do this, make sure you cut one extra long to be able to try on the bodies when you are checking the fit and checking the length. And I now have more needles, which I'll be talking about in my acquisition section of this video. I've had some questions about what notions are my go-to, so I really wanted to share those, and I'll have them linked in the description, but I will also try to make a whole video about knitting tools very soon. I am knitting the size large for the Cumulus Blouse, and I do think it's going to be more oversized than I wanted for this project. I think that I could have gotten away with the medium and I would be cutting it less close on yarn. I have 6 balls of this, and this is all I have left. Both sleeves are done, the neckline's on. All I have to do is the I-cord bind off, but I think I'm going to have to tink a row or two to be able to put my I-cord bind off on, which is fine. I'm okay with it being cropped. I just did not realize how low I was going to be on yarn for that bind off. I just want to make sure I don't get halfway through the I-cord bind off and run out of yarn. But the Cumulus Blouse worked up so quickly. I highly recommend that pattern. It is actually so much fun and so quick. If you're looking for a simple stockinette project to have on the side or like just to work on, I highly recommend the Cumulus Blouse. We started the Cumulus Blouse, I think, on August 1st, and by August 15th, I know I had the body pretty much done and one sleeve done. I finished the second sleeve shortly thereafter, but Haley ran out of yarn, so Mickey and I are kind of waiting to finish our project. But she's gotten her yarn now and is working on catching up, so we will be binding it off soon. And like I said, it's just a bind off away from being a finished object. I just don't want to finish it without my girlies. And I am filming an entire project vlog dedicated to the Cumulus Blouse buddy knit, so stay tuned for that one as well, and I can't wait to share that process with you guys. I have knit the Cumulus Blouse before, but I actually just spontaneously cast it on with a stash yarn, and shortly thereafter discovered it was a discontinued yarn. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep knitting and I'll shorten the sleeves, maybe I'll shorten the body, we'll see how it goes. But I was knitting this at the end of winter in America, and just as we were entering spring, I moved to Australia where we were entering fall. So I kind of just lost my mojo on this project. I didn't feel the need to work on a spring knit when I was very much dreading heading right back into cold weather. So I've pulled this back out while I've been working on the Cumulus Blouse, and I'm trying to decide if I should just finish it or frog it. I do like the yarn, but I do think there's a lot of issues with my tension that I hope will block out. And I think if I decide to finish this, I will unpick the neckline bind off and redo it because I'm not happy with how it looks at the middle of the V. I just picked up the stitches completely wrong down here and it looks quite loose and messy. So I would redo that. And then I'd probably pick up my sleeve stitches and knit a couple rounds and then do an I-cord bind off and then do the I-cord bind off on the body and have quite a cropped length. This is all the yarn I have left. It is Lion brand cream cotton in the color teal. And as I said, this is a discontinued yarn. It is a cotton and nylon blend. The yarn feels quite nice and I do like it. I think I could just finish this. This yarn could be used for something else, but I do think it looks quite nice and I've already gotten this far. So let me know down in the comments if you would finish or frog this project and use this yarn for something else or just try to make it work the way it is. Okay, now we're gonna talk about my stockinette side whip. I am making the Mille cardigan for my husband. I am knitting it in Knit Pick Simply Wool in the color Winnie, which I'm really happy with. My husband requested a beige collared cardigan, so I put together a list on Ravelry for him to take a look at and choose from of projects I was willing to knit for him. And this is the one he selected, so I started shopping yarns and he approved this color, so I ordered it when I was ordering more yarn for my book club cardigan because your girl needed to reach that free shipping cutoff. And yes, I said this is a cardigan and it is joined completely in the round. These are steeking stitches. I did not want to do long purl rows on an adult man-sized cardigan. I get wrist pain when I purl and I think it's something I need to work on, like my technique of how I turn my wrists. And when I purl, I use my finger to maneuver the yarn and it causes a lot of pain for my wrists, and I think I need to work on wrapping my yarn without using that finger because my finger and wrist will actually lock up when I'm doing long purl rows. So these steeking stitches were an act of self-care and self-preservation, but I watched so many videos in preparation for adding these steeking stitches. I added a purl column on each side so that I can pick up for the button band when that time comes, and then there are 8 stitches in the middle. And I will cut in between the 2 middle stitches after I add a reinforcement. And I will go through before I cut and add a crochet reinforcement for those stitches. And then I will sew it in under the button band. I am intimidated by the idea of cutting my knitting, but I was more intimidated by the idea of the purl rows than I was the steeking. So I'm really just hoping for the best. And like I said, I always do so much research before doing things like this so that I can prepare myself. So I will definitely be documenting that journey on here. I'll probably do a vlog when the steeking time comes and share that process with you guys. And because of that, this project is so much more fun to work on. It's my little side whip for whenever I'm watching TV, and it's also been my park project whenever I'm taking my son to the park. I will throw this in my bag, and if I get a chance to knit, if I'm not chasing him around the whole time, then I will work on this because it's easy, it's mindless, and I don't know if I plan to finish it by Christmas anymore, because here in Australia, Christmas time is going to be midsummer, so there's no point in gifting him a cardigan for Christmas. But if I just decide to finish it by that time, I do think it will still be a special gift for him, and I think he's gonna really love it. I'm really happy to have that simple side project. I think it's so important to have a mindless knit on the side, but it's always so nice to also have mindful knits, like ones that really involve my focus, like my salty days, and like the next project I'm going to be pulling out, which is my secret side whip that I've been not sharing, that I've been keeping for myself. After that successful first colorwork cuff club sock, I got the bug to conquer colorwork and to conquer my colorwork fear. I decided to cast on the Lumme sweater by Sari Nordlund, and I am knitting this in more of the Annette Erickson Scandi wool in the colors linen and toffee. I think the color combination is absolutely stunning, and I cannot understate how proud I am that I am doing this. I have no fear when it comes to cable projects or textured knits, but when I see colorwork projects, I always just have this like want to knit colorwork with this like fear, like this intimidation that I can't do that, or I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I have a huge Ravelry bundle of colorwork sweaters that I would love to knit one day that I just don't feel like I'm there yet. And like, oh, I'll have my colorwork era, but I just want to do colorwork so bad. Every time I see a design by the petite knitter, I want to knit all of them. I started this in the last week of August, trying to keep myself from casting on the salty days. I was having insane cast on energy, so I pulled out this yarn from my stash that I had purchased with the intention to make the Lumme sweater, and I cast it on. I did do a gauge swatch in stockinette of the main color, but I'm just learning as I go. I've been watching videos, I've been asking my knitting friends their tips and techniques. I do think there's a few rows here where my tension did get too tight, but I corrected, and I'm being very mindful to knit quite loosely. And I'm having a lot of fun using my new needles, which I will be talking about in just a minute. And I'm just so proud of how it's working up. I can't believe I'm doing this. I have wanted to knit colorwork so long. I'm just absolutely stunned. This pattern is so easy. Like, I genuinely think, even as a beginner colorwork knitter, this is the perfect beginner colorwork project. And if I hadn't been casting on the salty days, then I wouldn't have put this down, and it would probably be nearly finished by now, because I think I worked this up in like 2 days. I just got really hooked on it, and I'm very, very excited to work on it some more. Obviously, we're going into spring here, so it's fun to be working on a leaf motif and a flower motif. But with me knitting the sweater instead of the Lumme tee, which she does have a tee version of, I highly doubt I'll be wearing this anytime soon. So this will be a long-term whip most likely, and just a fun side project for me to have to test my colorwork skills and to learn colorwork. I'm so proud of myself that I never shy away from learning new skills, even when they are quite intimidating. Now let's move on to acquisitions. I have acquired a lot of yarn lately, so I'm actually going to be doing an entire yarn haul video. I think I'm just gonna sit down and chat about yarn and my plans for projects with them very soon. That will be my next video after this one. So keep an eye out for that one, and subscribe if you haven't already. But let's talk about my needles that I have just bought. I purchased the Leica copper knitting needle set. These needles are so stunning. I'm absolutely obsessed with them. They are the perfect balance of glide and grip as you work with them. And I think one of the driving factors of me finally purchasing these was when I found out that they are interchangeable with my Knit Picks cables. Before I got the Leica needles, my Knit Picks needles were my primary interchangeable needle set. Speaking of, if you don't have an interchangeable knitting needle set and you are a beginner knitter and you're committed to knitting, I highly recommend this set. I'll have them linked in the description, but I just wanted something that wasn't wooden. I do love my wood needles. I think they have a good grip when I am knitting my cables, but I wanted something with a little more glide. But the ChalGoo needles that I kept looking into are so expensive, and they honestly don't seem like something I need for what I like to knit. They seem designed for lace work and things like that. So my friend Mickey from Mickey's Cozy Corner has these copper needles, and I was highly influenced. I really love that they are interchangeable with the cables I already had. These are the cables they came with, and it's really cool that they swivel. I've never had swivel cords, but let me just say that every single stitch gets stuck on this ridge where it swivels before it comes onto the needle. And it is so frustrating to have to deal with that I'd rather have a non-swivel cord. So I'm very thankful that my new needles can be interchangeable with my other cables that do not catch on anything. And this set is a lot cheaper than the new set I purchased. It's a lot more affordable. So I'm amazed that these come with a cable that just like glides over seamlessly, whereas the needles I just invested a lot of money into have cables that get stuck on every stitch. So there's definitely pros and cons to both of these, but I do think that these are so nice to knit with. They have a really good balance of grip and glide, and that is really what I was looking for. I wanted something that I could really zip through stockinette on. As someone who creates knitting content, you've gotta love the aesthetic. But I think they're also very functional, and I'm happy to have 2 sets of needles now because I don't have to limit my whip cast-ons to what needles are available. I am knitting right now both my Lumme sweater and my Salty Days in my 5.5mm needles. So if I only had one set, I would have to put one into hibernation to cast on a new one. And as for what I've been reading, I haven't been reading that much lately. I've been pouring all of my time into knitting, and I don't always knit and read at the same time. I know a lot of people are very good at that and also love to listen to audiobooks. There's always really long holds at my library for the audiobooks of the books I want to listen to. So I haven't been finishing a whole lot of books lately, but I have started a new one. I started reading Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, which is a fantasy romance following 2 rival journalists. There's a war between gods, and I believe these journalists are going to follow different sides of the war. And I just love the dynamic. I'm loving the characters. I've read about 50 pages and I'm just really loving it. So I can't wait to read more. And there's already a sequel out. So if I enjoy the first one, I am very excited to be able to pick up the second. And I'm reading it on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle Unlimited as well, you could borrow this title and read it with me. Editing Morgan here to say that this book, I am almost done with it now because I am absolutely devouring it. I'm so obsessed. It is so much more than I imagined. It's really moving up the ranks of my favorite books of the year so far. It is rivals to lovers. It's also slow burn, and their chemistry is just so real. The character development is so amazing. I already know it's going to be a 5 stars, and I'm just so obsessed with it. I can't wait to immediately pick up the second book, which is also available. So I just wanted to add that in here. If you are considering reading this book, you should pick it up. I'd love to hear down below what you have been reading lately and if you've been reading anything good. And if you read while you knit, do you read a physical book? Do you read on your Kindle with it propped up? Or do you read audiobooks while you knit? Or do you just stick to shows and knitting podcasts? I want to thank you so very much for unraveling with me, and I hope you found some inspiration from this video. Don't forget to let me know down below what you are working on while watching or what projects you're hoping to work on soon. I'd love to hear if we have any projects in common. If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future cozy videos. Don't forget to do something that helps you unravel, and I will be wishing you a very cozy week.